All right. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Project Console, episode 31. And, yeah, episode 31. We are all still locked in. Um, but before we get into our topics, I'd like my panelists to introduce himself.
Hello. It's me, Mr. Red Fox, owner proprietor BS Busters, and I'm glad to be on another cast.
All right. So our first topic is the Xbox. There was an Xbox outage over the weekend, and it didn't affect everybody, I guess, but it affected enough people where it created a problem for Microsoft because people couldn't play their digitally downloaded games because of the server outage. Um, I know people brought, made people circle around and started thinking about, wait, didn't we fight against the DRM with the Xbox One? To that I'd say DRM's never going away, as far as I know. Like, this is a problem during the Xbox 360 and even the PS3 days, where if you were offline, there were certain games that you couldn't play.
Yep,
I had a
yep.
friend. I had a friend. She had to go over because she lived in a place where, especially at the time, where you couldn't get internet. The best internet you could get was dial-up, and she'd have to go to her friend's house to play Castle Crashers because she couldn't play it offline. So yeah, she couldn't play Castle Crashers offline because it was in order for her to play it,
You
she'd
had to
have to.
check into it had to do an online check in order for you to play the game.
Yeah, it's just like it is. That's why it was so weird that people were all up in arms about the Xbox One and about the fact that it was had to check in order for you to play your games. Like, this has been a problem for years. This was a problem during the 360 and PS3 era.
During the seventh gen. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, there's certain games. I know there's a game that I really enjoyed on my PS3 because I had the PS2 version as well. Mercenaries 2. And that was a LucasArts game when they still had a studio. And if you play that game, like, you can get a physical copy of the game, you can install it to your system, you can turn on the game. But if you try to connect to the online servers for that game, it'll be stuck in a permanent state of trying to connect to those servers, and you'll have to um, soft reboot your system in order to continue to do anything else. Because basically, in order for you to do online, it's trying to connect to servers that EA pulled because they were the publisher of that game. Um, and that was back then. That was the seventh gen. That was the beginning of the seventh gen because it was a cross-gen title across the PS2 and the PS3 and the Xbox, OG Xbox, and the Xbox 360. I mean, basically, and the people who were like, "Oh, I don't want DRM on my systems," and then they went and bought a PS4, which has DRM on the system. So you're not getting away from this. Every console is doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Switch, the PS4, the PS5, the Xbox One, the Xbox Series X, some games on PC. You're not getting away from this.
That's why
Okay.
when I saw people just go all up in arms during Xbox One era, it's like, you guys are a little slow to the party. I mean, not every game back in those days had online DRM, but there is certainly a few that I remember that had, like, if you weren't online, you couldn't play it. A
Yep.
lot of the Xbox arcade games were that way. So yeah, it's baffling to me that people are shocked. It's like, oh, I'm so shocked that this is happening. It's like, why are you surprised?
Yeah.
Why are
For
any of you
real?
surprised
Yeah.
by this?
For real, this was a bridge too far when this has been going on in consoles for 2 generations. At
Yeah,
least no, 3 console generations at this point.
yeah,
Like, now, that was a bridge too far. For real. That one.
yeah,
I mean, like, I understand the concern. I understand people don't want to do it, but I mean, like I'm a Nintendo gamer, and Nintendo started doing it. So if Nintendo's doing it, uh, there's no hope for anyone else. So I'm just embracing it slowly. They're dragging me kicking and screaming to the next level
For
at
the
this
most,
point.
for the most part, maybe some Steam games, but I've been able to play a few of my Steam games offline when you go in offline mode.
Oh
Um,
yeah, yeah. Steam, you can do that.
I don't know why
Steam.
they don't. I don't know why they. I don't know why Steam doesn't have this problem and the other consoles do.
Well, I mean, the games where you can't, where you have to be on Steam, or like for games that are like online centric, like SOCOM,
Yeah,
not not SOCOM, Counter Strike.
yeah,
It makes sense for Counter Strike, Team Fortress 2, Left 4 Dead, stuff like that. But those games are online focused,
yeah.
so you can't play them if it's not connected online. Um, so that makes sense. Aside from that, you can go in offline mode and play your whole entire library
Yeah, I mean,
that's
this is.
downloaded to your system, which makes sense.
I mean, and this goes back to the discussion that we've had. I remember having this discussion with people several years ago about the fact that game preservation. If you think game preservation is a headache now, think of all these games that came out a buggy mess, like say Cyberpunk 2077, or had game breaking bugs. They or had a big game breaking bug day one. Um, I know. Um, it was a game. It was a game on the PS5 that had some game breaking bugs. Had a. I think there was some problems with saves or something like the corrupt saves. I forgot the name of the game all of a sudden, but yeah,
Control,
not
not
yeah,
Control. Yeah,
was it?
Control. It was that weird game where like it had like you had to have an online connection for a single player game
No,
because
it's
there's no multiplayer in the game.
oh, it wasn't Control. It was a you were like an astronaut, a female astronaut
Not
crashing off.
I know what you're talking about. It's that game made by the same people who made that first person shooter. I mean that side scrolling shooter for the PS4, and everyone's like, "This is a system seller for when the PS4 first launched." And
Yeah,
everyone's like, "This is a system seller for the PS4," and then they ported it to the PS3 like 3 months later. So
yeah.
everyone's like, "Yeah, whatever."
Oh yeah,
But
it's called Returnal. That's the name.
yeah, Returnal. Yeah. The game, the servers went down for the game, and people couldn't play the game, and it was kind of weird because it's a single player game. I mean, I think they finally added multiplayer like recently, but back then it was a single player game, which made no sense.
I mean, the thing is, the same with the new Gran Turismo game. You can never truly resell the disc for that game because you know it, the old patches would be on the game. So it's gonna be interesting to see how not only games are preserved but patches as well because that's when because they're not gonna keep these servers up forever. At some
Yeah,
point they're gonna move to new servers and they're going to you know either delete or you know archive their their stuff, because it takes costs a lot of money to keep those servers up. So
I mean, yeah, but that's the cost of doing business.
yeah,
Like I shouldn't be punished as a gamer because I like I'm not putting a lot of money into your game that you want to make into a live service and keep always, like it's the reason why I don't really play. I stopped playing a lot of Nintendo's online multiplayer games because I'm not paying 20 to $50 for an online service where like I already pay for my ISP. So why am I paying on top of that to support your infrastructure?
yeah,
That's not that good anyway. I mean, I hate to say that, but
yeah, yeah, exactly.
yeah, I mean, I don't know why that is. I guess it's just a thing that's going on, you know. Um, Like at the end of the day, I think what it boils down to is that these companies want to have control. They want control over how you play your games, and I don't like it. Um, but that's just what's going on.
Yeah.
You know. Um, people try to tell these people don't do it, don't buy into it. I know that I told people this during the PS4, during the last gen, the eighth gen. I've told people this about Nintendo's online services. I'm like, don't do it because they want to control how you play your games. Don't accept this BS Nintendo online service because they just want to make it so that they rent games to you when you could just be able to download them and play them whenever. You know.
Yeah.
Um, but people said I want this inferior service that they're parceling out, so I'll go with this. So you get what basically companies follow the money, and if you're giving them money for mediocre service, then they'll do mediocre service.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's true.
All right, Jewel
Uh,
will be in. She's dealing with something. She'll be in when she get a chance. When she can
oh,
get a chance.
okay.
Yeah, she just sent me a message. But yeah, I mean, I'm like, that's where I'm kind of like, okay, like, I mean, like, I'm at the point now where I am not going to beg and plead and, you know, get on my knees. Because at a certain point, you just gotta, it's like you can tell someone, hey, don't run out into that street. You'll get hit by a car. And at a certain point, if someone keeps on lunging towards the street, I'm not going to grab that leash or scream, "Don't run out there in the street." They're just gonna have to get hit by a car and learn their lesson the hard way.
Yeah.
You know, because you know, I don't have the energy. It's not my job to like the old saying, "You can lead a horse to water, you can't make it drink."
Yeah.
And, I mean, we've all told people, "Don't do this. This is what they're trying to do." Everyone was like, "Oh yeah, yeah," I have to be honest. In terms of backwards compatibility and giving consumers choices, Microsoft's been great. But I mean, when Nintendo did it, Sony was right behind them.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna cut off the old stuff so that we can charge you an exorbitant fee for our shitty online service
Yeah.
and give you access. Yeah, now you care about backwards compatibility because now you can use it as an upsell for your shitty service. That's
Yeah.
what that is. It's not like you care about consumers because if you did, you would basically have migrated your PS2, PS1. Like people would be able to go in and pay like $3, $4, $5 for PS1 games, maybe like $7, $8, $9, $10 for PS2 games, which for me, I think that's a fair price because most PS2 games aren't using the modem. Like all it is just you're just emulating it. Like why do I have to use your shitty online service just to download a game and play it? Like that's weird to me.
Yeah.
But gamers gamers constantly cut off their nose to spite their faces. I don't know why that is.
Yeah. A lot of these people are late, always late to the party. It's like, where were you when this was happening like 10 years ago? You guys said nothing.
No, they were busy playing online only games or games that are like 75% online. And they just don't care. They're like, I don't fucking care what it is. As long as I get to play my games, it doesn't matter. As long as I'm happy, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, gamers are kind of complacent, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah. That is true. Yeah. Um, but anything else you'd like to bring up about this topic before we move on to the second?
Except one thing. This isn't an X. Like people want to spin this as just being an Xbox online issue. This is an every console issue. because
Yeah,
every
it's
console has some form of online DRM. PlayStation, Switch, the Xbox. If you have a PC, there, I guarantee you, there's some games in your library where, like, if you're not connected to the internet, there's a good amount of functionality that's just not going to be there.
yeah. There's a lot of I know what they're trying to do. They're trying to make it so people aren't you know burning copies of games and playing them like it was several years ago back
Yeah,
then.
but
But people aren't really. I mean, it's these game files. A lot of these, especially these these AAA games, AA games. Even some of the maybe some of the higher end indie games. These games are big files. It just be a pain to try to download them off the internet because you more than likely you're gonna get a server. You're gonna get a server that isn't very good. It'll take like a week for for something
yeah,
like GTA 5 to download.
I don't even think it's piracy at this point. I think we're just dealing with people who are just. It's just companies want to control how you play their games.
Yeah,
It's
that's
it's
it.
about control. It's about we're gonna force you to do things the way we want you to do it. And personally, I don't like it because you spend 60, you buy something, you should be able to do whatever the hell you want to with it. And I mean, I don't think, like, unless you're like a small indie studio, I don't think piracy is really going to be slamming you like, like if you, like, like if you have a big AAA thing, I'm sure there are people who pirate FIFA, and I'm pretty sure that those people who pirate FIFA, they can't even go online anyway to play
Yeah,
those games. It's all local gameplay. So it's like I don't see the point of having all this DRM. Like I really don't. Like it's to the point where they are trying so hard to deter people from piracy, allegedly, because I don't think it. Like the excuse that these people use is, well, we have to protect our product, and it's about it's anti-piracy measures. I don't think it is, because this is like this is the difference between going to a store where they have a security guard who's up at the front, not like right there, like as you walk in, but just you can see their presence, to someone searching your bags as you walk in and as you walk out. Like one is like that they're there, and the other one is like you're actively punishing people who didn't do anything just to send a message. And it's more of the latter and less of the former.
yeah,
But that's my own personal opinion.
yeah. So next topic is Square Enix really selling their Western studios to uh, put that money into crypto uh, NFTs. I've heard people say no. It's them just cutting out the fat because um, their Western studios have not performed the way they would like to, and I've also heard this is a few years ago on
Mm-hmm.
a podcast where the Square Enix West and Square Enix East weren't getting along very well. Like I guess there was some in house fighting. So yeah, so it's probably them just trimming off the fat. And plus, we know that Square Enix in its current form is it's such a they that company is so mismanaged.
Yep.
So it's so mismanaged.
I mean, they
And
might have 5 big projects a year, and only 2 of them are good
yeah,
commercially and critically, and then the other 3 are just some trash.
yeah,
It's like, um, which is embarrassing because their fiscal year just started. Like
I
it just started.
and one Western studio they kept was for some reason People Can Fly.
Mm,
That's that created the
Outriders.
Outriders game. So
Mm.
yeah, that's the one studio they kept for some odd reason because I don't know if they still think they have hope in that game. That game underperformed, and they haven't been
Yeah, I think that game
getting royalty
underperformed, but I
checks.
think it. I think that game underperformed, but I don't think the numbers were as bad as Guardians of the Galaxy or Avengers. Like
Yeah.
Avengers was like someone going to a prom wearing like a dude going to his prom wearing a white tuxedo with baby blue shirt and baby blue tie and shitting themselves and you seeing the stain on that white tuxedo just spread all over the seat of the pants. Just, you can tell they just
uh, yeah.
yeah, that's what that Avengers game did. And same thing with Babylon's Falls. Yeah, I mean, I'm of two minds. I think that either A, they're just tired because Square Enix has put like at this point billions of dollars into the Western side. They've pumped billions of dollars, and it's never really like not. There's been no huge hit on the Western side of Square Enix, so it makes sense that they at this point are just like we're done.
Yeah.
Um, on the other hand, there's also the chatter that they are just essentially going to take that money. They're trying to make themselves look good so that Sony will buy them. Which I hope isn't true because not because I really give a shit about Sony, but because essentially speaking, if like Square Enix has a lot of JRPGs that they've bought over the years, and I don't want those to be Sony exclusive. Not that it matters because Sony hasn't really been hasn't really given a shit about JRPGs for years. But if they bought if they bought Square Enix, that means that Sony would exclusively own Fire, not Fire, Lufia, Ogre Battle, um, uh, Star Ocean, um, Grandia, like so many games that Square Enix has bought over the years, like IPs that they bought that they've just sat on. They've done nothing with them, or like
Yeah.
put out a remaster here and there. And I mean, you don't need that level of like that. That's where you're getting into like monopoly territory.
Sony really doesn't seem to care too much about Japanese development. At least not like they
Not
used to.
anymore.
Yeah.
Not like I would say the first half of the PS3 they kind of cared, and then the latter half of the PS3 came when the PS3 started picking up Western developers again, and the numbers became more equitable between the PS3 and the 360. And Sony said, "Fuck
Yeah.
you guys,
And,
bye. We
and,
don't need you anymore."
and they wanted to chase the um they wanted to chase 360 because that was they were fighting for they were at least fighting for second place, so they went a lot of same route. They were trying to have their Halo killer with Killzone
Killzone,
2. Yeah,
yeah,
Killzone 2, and I think Fuse was also that another game that people were like this is gonna be the Halo killer. That game
yeah,
turned
but
out to be
Fuse was a
awful.
multi-plat though.
Oh, oh, yeah,
Fuse was a
yeah,
multi-plat, but Killzone that was their they're like this is the Halo killer. I'm like, why would you say that? Every time Sony has said something is the X is like the big major IP that another party has that is like legendary. They're like this is the big insert IP here killer. It's never been. They said that during the PS2 with Dark Cloud. This is the Legend of Zelda killer. No, it ain't.
yeah. I think that's where people were like, because I remember people talking. I think back during the time, it was the early days of the PS2, where people were like, "Oh, Zelda's coming to the PS2." I was like, "What? How's that even possible?" And they must have been talking
Yeah,
about Dark Cloud.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I mean to be fair, I like Dark Cloud. It's a fun roguelike dungeon crawler
yeah,
with town building elements, but it's not. I mean, like I'll be honest with you. I think if you stack Dark Cloud 1 and Dark Cloud 2 up against the other two Legend of Zelda games that came out on the GameCube at that point, so Wind Waker and Twilight Princess, I think that I find the first Dark Cloud to be more interesting than Wind Waker, just because Wind Waker has like a lot of missing dungeons and the combat isn't really that interesting. Um, but Wind Waker still looks really good. Dark Cloud, not so much. Dark Cloud 2 looks great for being on the PS2, but I mean, it's trying to do too much.
yeah, yeah. And the thing,
Um,
Yeah, the thing about Dark Cloud and Zelda is like they're kind of, I mean, they're kind of different games.
Not
Like
kind of. They are.
they
They're completely
technically,
different
yeah,
games.
they are different games.
They're completely different games. Now, if you want to say that Level 5 eventually created one of the best games of like best 6th gen uh action RPGs of all time on the PS2, and it's, you want to put it in contention against the 6th gen Legend of Zelda games, go ahead. Knock yourself out. Because they eventually did create kind of like Dark Cloud 3, but it wasn't called that. It was called Rogue Galaxy. That game is fucking amazing. But like, it's not Legend of Zelda killer. Like Sony did the same thing with the PS Move. The PS Move, this is the Wii killer. No, it's not. Stop it. Stop it.
Yeah,
Stop it. Stop it. You're not gonna no.
it was more. Obviously, it was at the time it was more slightly more accurate than the Wii, but it just didn't have. It just didn't have the games to really be like, oh, this is yeah, this could compete with the Wii. Like it just didn't. I mean, it had a Wii Sports like game, but everybody's already played Wii Sports. Like the thing about the whole Wii thing for a lot of people is
Packed
a
into
lot
the
of,
system.
yeah, it was packed into the system, and
The
a lot of
gimmick
people,
was baked in. Like no one wanted to, because what the PS1 when it first launched was $5.99.
yeah,
It was $5.99. No one wants to spend wants to spend half a grand, a little over half a grand, and then find out 2, 3 years, 4 or 5, 2, 3 years into them owning that console that they spent half a grand on. Plus, let's say they got 2 games, so $700. Oh, and guess what? What you gotta buy? You gotta spend $200 on these knockoff Wiimotes in order to play some craptastic motion control games. Yay! No one wants to do that.
nope,
No one wants to buy more peripherals. Like, say whatever you want to about Nintendo, but they really do try to have whatever gimmick that console has out of the box. You're getting it. Like, you don't have to buy extra stuff to enjoy that gimmick. Because no console peripheral, I've never seen a console peripheral that came out after, like, it wasn't bundled with the console that was successful. I've never seen it.
yeah,
Like, the closest you're going to get is maybe Wii Motion Plus, and that's because that came with a game. Like, Wii Motion Plus, almost every game that utilized Wii Motion Plus came with Wii Motion Plus.
yeah,
Like, the little dongle you could add to your base thing. Aside from that, uh, look, Microsoft had more money than God, and they couldn't get people to want to connect. So with Sony's broke ass, I just didn't see that happen.
Well, the thing about the Kinect is it didn't have any tactile feedback. So it's just like you just were waving your hand hoping that the camera would catch you and it actually worked. It's like they didn't, it's like, oh, you don't need a controller. Well, sorry, technology isn't good enough for, to have a system where you interact with the game without any tactile feedback. It's just
No, I'm just saying in general. Like Microsoft has all the money in the world. Blank check. Even they have said, you know what? F the Connect. Okay. So, I mean, if Microsoft can't get the Kinect to work, and Nintendo has HD Rumble on the Switch, and like I think maybe 5 games really utilize it well, then I mean, come on, just stop trying to, like, unless you have a good idea for a gimmick, don't just try and make a gimmick because it comes across as lazy and uh, Me Too ish,
yeah, that's
bandwagony. Yeah, that's
that
the word. It's bandwagony.
yeah, it's just like, that was the problem with the Connect and the Move. It's like you're just, it just came off as like, look at us too. We got cool motion controllers. They were just trying to, aping the Wii and doing it poorly. Because
It's like, remember Harry Potter clones back in the day when Harry Potter was getting big? Like you would go and find a YA novel and you'd read it and you're like, they literally copied the formula of Harry Potter into this YA novel.
yeah, yeah, that's great. Yeah,
I'm like, come on. Yeah. At least come up with a like. I'm gonna keep it 100%. I think the authors from when I was like a younger kid were far more creative than that Harry Potter crowd of YA novelists who just were trying to copy Harry Potter.
Well, the same thing
Um,
happened with Twilight. Everybody was coming out with their own vampire romance novel after
yeah,
Twilight came out.
but I wasn't at that point. I wasn't reading YA. I was like, yeah,
Moved
I
into
mean, I was never really into Harry Potter, but I remember that like when Harry Potter was blowing up, I went to the dollar store because there was a dollar store near me where you could get like old books or at least new books relatively cheaply, like they were $1. I'm like, sure, I'll buy this book, and I'm like, oh, it's about these magic students who go to a special camp for magic students, and I'm reading the first book in the series, and there's a part where in order for you to figure out which cabin you go to, which like little like tribal cabin you go to, you have to hold the sorting stone. I'm like, come on, man.
yeah, that's yeah.
This is totally
Wow.
and there's an evil there's a group of evil magic users and it's all shit. I'm like, come on, you stole this is Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone almost beat for beat. I'm like, come on, man. You know,
Yeah. And
and
you know, it's not like Harry Potter was the most original thing ever made either.
no,
So
no, it wasn't. But like Harry Potter was at least unique enough that it's like it was kind of like its own thing. And then for someone to blatantly copy it, I'm like, come up with your own ideas, because like the previous like the young adult authors of the '80s. Like, yeah, you had some people who were big. You had like your Bruce Covilles, but like everyone did their own thing. Like Jane Yolen's stuff is very different from Patricia C. Reed's stuff, which is very different from Bruce Coville's stuff, which is different from the R.L. Stein stuff. Like they're all different. They all have their different flavors and what they're doing.
yeah,
There was a time during the mid '90s, late '90s. I'm like, why are all y'all trying to copy this one person?
yeah. I remember reading like the Goosebumps stuff and you know, Strange Matter stuff too. And it's like, yeah, they were both like children's horror books, but they were different. It's not like one was necessarily trying to copy the other. But yeah, yeah. It's like there's a difference between being inspired and just blatantly copying somebody. But
You know. Look, I understand because I'm a movie person and I know that like you'll always watch movies where people are copying other people's stuff. That's just par for the course. But if you're gonna do it, at least have a clever twist or do something interesting. Don't just I want that too. It's like no, it's lazy.
yeah,
It's a lazy literary device. Don't do that. But yeah, that's my thing where I'm just like okay, but anyway,
anyway,
back to Square Enix. Yeah, I don't yeah.
yeah,
Like two things. I don't know if they're selling their stuff. I don't like if they're selling their stuff because they're just tired of it. I mean, because seeing how long they had been like because they had bought those European studios in like 2013, 2011. So it's been a long time, and they have been. Um, I mean, to be trying to get like let's say for a decade, for over a decade, to be trying to get a big hit from Western studios for over a decade, and nothing like their biggest hit was um the Tomb Raider reboot games, which combined I think sold like 10 million. Which to be fair has sold more than their like the Tomb Raider games have sold more than their big huge like their Kingdom Hearts 3 remake and their friggin uh, uh reimagining of Final Fantasy 7. Like it sold more than those games. But I mean, you have to remember they almost had like 1,200 people work. They had they their western side of their studios was like almost a little over 1,100 people working like on that. That's a lot of money,
Yeah.
you know. And they probably wanted. They probably on those western studios. They probably wanted something that was selling like they wanted Call of Duty numbers, which is unrealistic because IDOS never had games that sold like that, even you know pre Square Enix. So I don't know. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I think at that point they're just it's just wishful thinking. It's like yeah, we're gonna make all this money, but they never sold like that. Even before you guys, like Hitman didn't sell like that. Thief didn't sell like that. Like IDOS always was kind of like a ambitious double A studio. I mean, they made ambitious double A games. They weren't making triple A stuff. And there's nothing wrong with that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, we're just gonna have to see. And like I said, I wouldn't know why Sony would want to buy Square Enix when they've have given little to no thought when it comes to Japanese developers lately. I remember, you know, Japanese developers being unhappy about that, and I've known, a lot of them have strayed to either PC or Nintendo,
Bucks.
Xbox too. So
And the thing is that generally speaking, most Xbox, most JRPGs, if they're on Xbox, that's where JRPGs die.
yeah,
It's like, oh, we're on Xbox. Oh, this ain't gonna do shit. On
yeah,
Xbox.
yeah.
But they'll go and do that. So I don't know. Like at this point, I just don't know what's going to happen. I mean, like I just don't want to see a monopoly, which is what is more than likely going to happen if Sony buys those IPs. I mean, buy Square Enix because you're going to have like a lot of old JRPG franchises just be consumed by Sony, which makes me nervous. Like I
Yeah,
don't want that.
yeah, that's gonna be a problem. Gonna be a problem.
I know some people are going to be like, but insert reason here why that's not going to be an issue. But I'm like, if you can't understand why that would be an issue for Sony to essentially have all those IPs under one roof, that's a problem. Like it's. I mean, it's bad enough that Microsoft is putting all those IPs under one roof, but the thing is that Microsoft is also putting those games on PC. But Sony's even now doesn't put a lot of games on PC. Like even though they've started to put more games on PC, so like
They
you're not going to see those games be on other platforms.
they still. I mean, I probably hesitant because I still want to sell consoles because I think people are gonna. Well, since they're on PC, I'm just gonna build a gaming PC and play it that way. I don't. I think people underestimate, the uh, amount of people who would much rather just buy a console and plug it into their TV and be done with it, rather than somebody, going out and then building a gaming PC. Don't get me wrong, there are more people who have gotten into PC gaming over the past few years, but
Yeah, but I think a lot of people are just buying pre-built or getting a laptop.
yeah,
Because I mean, there's decent laptops these days where you can just you know, you just you can spend $2,000 and get a decent gaming PC
yeah,
these
yeah.
days. Like, so I'm just saying, like, I'm not gonna be like, oh my god, like this isn't a thing. Like,
I mean, consoles are still selling. It's not like they're not. It's not like consoles aren't selling anymore. So
No, I'm not. I'm not saying that consoles aren't selling. I'm just saying that I don't think that like like you look at the consoles that are selling. The consoles that are selling are things like the Switch, which the Switch is like, like it's like people want that portable gaming experience. Like the console that's really been selling gangbusters aside from the Switch is the Xbox Series S, because people want something that's going to be budget friendly and they're not going to have to put a lot of money into to play.
Yeah.
Like that's what people want. They don't want a lot of they don't want a lot of BS. Okay, they don't want a lot of dual. They don't want to have to do a lot of stuff, and I can understand that. Um, you know, and that's all I'm saying. Like, people are just like, people are like, I'm not saying that there isn't a case to be made like consoles aren't selling. I'm just saying consoles aren't selling like people would have you believe. Now, part of that is because supply shortages, but still, you know. But that's my own personal opinion. I could be wrong.
Well, Intel CEO, or yeah, Intel CEO says the chip shortages uh could leak into 2024. Um, I know
I could see that.
people were assuming that 2023 was going to be the time when things are going to catch up, but it turns out that 2024 is, because you gotta know that it's not, there are a lot of things that not just computers. There are a lot of things that use computers, like cars, that are fighting for fighting for these chips, because there's still they're still in demand. Now there's certain stuff like GPUs that are falling out of demand, but
Yeah,
there's still a lot of stuff out there that's still heavy heavy in demand when it comes to
yeah. Well, I
computers.
mean, at this point, it's not so much the chips themselves; it's the fabs.
Yeah.
And the thing is, even if someone at this point's like, yeah, like your Intel, like someone like Intel, and they start upping their fabs, like that still doesn't guarantee that you're going to see the supply chain alleviate until next year.
Yeah, because you still need to get, you know, rare earth minerals or whatever, or you still need the mine for the materials to make the chips.
I mean, but what I was saying is not just that. Like even if Intel and TSMC and all these other companies get their stuff together and you can do, like, they immediately start doing all that stuff, you still have to deal with the fact that like previous contracts have to be filled. So there's still a backlog of other stuff. You get what
Oh,
I'm saying?
yeah, yeah. Oh, okay, yeah. I see what you're saying. Yeah, there's stuff that hasn't been, filled out yet, because the world was shut down for a year and a half.
So previous stuff has to be filled. I mean, people have this belief that, oh, well, the ship shortage is going down. No, there's other stuff there are other contracts that need to be filled first, then new, like, that has to get. I mean, I hate to use this analogy, but it's like you're going to the bathroom and you're sick because you ate something bad. All that other stuff has to go out, plus other stuff too, before new stuff can go in. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
So, it's going to take a while. It's going to take a while for supply to meet demand. But when it does, things will be better. It's just going to take a while. It's not going to happen overnight. And that's okay.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, I'm sure there were models of cars that were supposed to come out, 2020 or 2021, but ended up getting pushed back to, you know, getting pushed to 2022, 2023. So, you know. or models of just general stuff.
Yeah, people have this weird belief that you know, like as soon as a factory says we have this is being assembled, that doesn't mean that like it's if it's being assembled, that doesn't mean that immediately everything's just okay. Then this means it's no stuff. Like first the assembly lines have to be well. First the prototypes have to be the prototyping has to be. Then they have to set up the assembly lines. Then like everything within the assembly lines is set up so that all the other stuff connected to the assembly line is in good shape. Then the stuff's in the assembly line. Then what's on the assembly line has to be packaged, then put on shipping containers.
Yeah,
Now, you had an issue where the shipping was jacked up and the assembly lines were jacked up.
yeah.
And the what was the other one? The the uh assembly line.
Manufacturing.
Shoot. No, ma- uh the shipping.
Yep.
The shipping was messed up. So you had three parts of the five factors that get your products to you were jacked up.
Yeah,
And, that's not like even with the shipping aspect, even if they hire more truck drivers and more dock workers, those people have to be trained. They're not immediately going to be certified. Like it takes time for this stuff to happen. It's not going to happen overnight. And if anyone tells you, "Oh yeah, it's easy," they're lying to you.
yeah,
Or as they say, someone's telling a porky.
uh,
Um,
yeah. And PS, and I know people have been trying to get a hold of PS5. Apparently, that's still going to be a while before if you're looking for one before you can get your hands on one of those.
Same
But
thing with a not Series X.
yeah, yeah,
Like the reason one of the big reasons that the Series S has been doing well is because the the Series S uses less components. It's got less tech packed into it, so it's easier to make, cheaper to make.
yeah,
So that's what people have been getting. They're like, well, I want to play next gen. I want to play a next gen console, but this is what I got. So I got to take what I can get. Basically.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Uh, Also, you know, the series consoles have been outpacing, or sometimes they're close or outpacing the PS5 because people have given up and trying to look for a PS5. And Elden Ring came out a few months ago, and they really wanted to play that. And since that's on everything, they're like, well, I'll just get a Xbox Series X, and it's partially because Microsoft um, has paid priority for manufacturing. So
Can't say I'm mad about that. I mean,
yeah,
they. I mean, look. This is what you should have a more equitable console race. Like we would have had last gen if Sony and Nintendo, I mean Microsoft and Nintendo hadn't messed up so badly.
yeah,
Um, but I mean, this is what you want. You don't want one console to just run away with it. Like you want a more balanced um, market competition between the different companies. Like I don't know why people are like, yeah, I want my console. Like even if you have a console preference, you should not want one console to just have a run because when that happens, uh, there if there's no competition, then basically that means anything goes.
yeah,
Which is why the PS4 was such a embarrassing was kind of like a lackluster console to me. It was just because there was no competition.
yeah, yeah.
I don't know why people would not want uh, competition between the companies. Because that means when there's competition, because Microsoft has backwards compatibility, don't you think that that has forced Sony to be less egregious with their backwards compatibility?
Yeah, 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 definitely. Because people have enjoyed the fact that Microsoft is taking backwards compatibility seriously.
Oh, wait, I kept my old stuff, so that doesn't mean I need to buy more stuff just to play my old games.
And if you have one company, most recent example I can think of is Intel. When Intel was on top and AMD really wasn't doing much of anything pertaining to their CPUs, or even with Nvidia with their GPUs, but mainly CPUs. Intel was just reskinning their old old CPUs. Like it was just a slightly each generation is just a slightly uh, better version than their last architecture. Like they didn't
Well, you
have to
know why
do
that
anything.
was, right?
Why was that?
The previous CEO was a money guy,
Yeah,
and he
yeah,
was worried about doing. He was worried about maximizing return on investment, not innovation and um, R&D. Which, I mean, that's fine if your company is not like, if your company is like a restaurant, then maximizing your money and not worrying about R&D is okay. But when your business is tech, you kind of do need that. You know what I'm saying?
yeah. I heard somewhere he wanted to he wanted to make like bags or something to create more brand recognition. It's like you're a computer component manufacturer. What? Why are you? Yeah, there's a lot.
Intel, you make CPUs.
Yeah,
That's what you do.
yeah,
Like, why are you not in, like, why aren't you putting at least a third of your budget, at least a third of your revenue generated should be going to R&D? Nope. We're gonna make gimped CPUs and gimped components and just charge people out the pooter. That's why they hired Pat Gelsinger back, because he was like the last time Intel had a cutting edge CPU, Pat Gelsinger helped get it out. That's why they hired him back. They're like,
yeah,
you're the CEO, which they should have. I mean, I don't know why. I don't know why they put a money guy. Because the thing is, like, Intel's a tech company. You need a tech guy at the head of a tech company.
yep, yep.
Like, you can't go with a money guy, because they're going to be worried about, oh, well, we need to increase our bottom line, not, oh, we need to actually do stuff that's gonna make our business better. No.
Yeah, yeah. It's pretty crazy. Yeah, and yeah, when Calcinger when he came into the picture, uh, their CPU started to really take off. You know, it became not just their name, but also quality as well. They became more competitive with AMD, which hopefully is hopefully will make AMD even more competitive.
Which means everyone wins when there's more competition, because it means these companies actually have to compete and not just do the bare minimum.
Mm,
You
yeah,
know, that's a good thing. Like, I don't know why people think that competition, like, when companies compete against each other, you know who wins? We do.
yep,
It means prices go down. It means that these companies are forced to actually make a good product and compete. And that means we all win. I know a lot of people like to fanboy about products, but really, when there's competition, we all win.
yep. That's for sure.
If anyone tells you differently, they're lying to you.
No, I should probably change what I said. The instead of the GPU crash being imminent, the GPU crash is here. Um, Prices have been dropping like rocks the last few days. Um,
Yep.
mainly mainly because of a less demand, b Bitcoin slash Ethereum has been dropping like a rock. I don't know if you've taken a look at
Yeah, I saw that.
Bitcoin.
Like one,
It's
the bitcoins lost like 99% of their value.
yeah, it's done.
And I was sitting there laughing the entire time.
Oh, it's like
Sucker.
yeah. You should
Yeah.
if you put like thousands and thousands of dollars in the Bitcoin, last few years. I hope that when it reached what was it 70,000, uh, so last year, maybe late 2020. Oh, I hope you were smart enough to sell that before it took a
I
big
hope you
old
pulled your
dump.
money out.
Yeah.
I hope you
Um,
pulled your money out because if you didn't, oh boy, it's not going to be fun for you.
oh man, I bet there are people that are tearing their hair out right now.
Well,
And
you know what happened, right? You know the people at the top who put their money in first, they pulled their money out
oh yeah,
first, because that's what crypto is. It's one big pyramid scheme.
yeah,
The people at the top put their money in, and then the people below them, they get people below them to put their money in, and then they pull their money out. So they get their payday, but the people below them who are immediately below them want to get other people in on it so that they can build up the money, build up the value again, and then they can pull their money out. It's one big continuous pyramid scheme. So
yeah. I there's a you know I'll say who, but there's a group of people that were trying to push their NFTs and whatnot. And I'm just kind of they were like, yeah, I sold this NFT for 100. I got bought this NFT for 150 and turned around and sold it for 3,000. It's like, yeah, this sounds like a scam. This sounds like too good to be true.
oh, it is.
No.
It totally is. NFTs in general, within and of themselves, are very scammy.
Yeah.
I know some people are going to be like, but insert reason here. Come on, man. Most of the people who try to sell you on NFTs don't even know what an NFT is. They got suckered, and now they want to sucker you so that they can build up the value and make some money. And I'm not against people making money, but you don't try and don't BS a BSer. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, and it's. I mean, the last few days, Bitcoin has just fallen
Cratered.
hard.
Hmm.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Oh man. Oh, that's why you don't put all your eggs in one basket, kids.
No,
Oh,
if it were up to me, I would put my money. I would more likely put my money into. I mean, I know the stock market went down, but stock market will eventually go back up. There's no guarantee whatsoever that Bitcoin is going to go back up.
yeah, yeah. Anyway,
You know,
yeah, and just in time, Bitcoin took a huge dump, right as they hacked the GPUs and were able to remove the limiters.
it
You know
became a
that.
it became a moot point at that point because
Yeah,
it was like, oh,
it's not even worth it anymore.
well, I mean, it is if you absolutely like wanna like it is if you absolutely wanna just like you know do some illicit stuff, do crypto mining. I mean, if you want to get on the ground floor of a crypto mining outfit, I guess it's good, but I
You
stay
know,
away from crypto because it's not good for the environment, and it's too much work. Like crypto favors the people who have tons and tons of who have the resources to have huge crypto mining setups.
yeah, they don't.
Like
Yeah, they don't. They don't have. The thing is, like, even crypto mining, it's not worth it because you're not gonna make. you're not gonna make a lot of money back on your GPUs. It's gonna take like 4 years to make money back on your GPUs, and by then it's you know your GPU is probably only gonna be worth like 100. Depending on what kind you have, it's probably gonna be worth like $300, even
Like I
even if
said,
it's not.
if you're someone who has one of those big crypto mining rigs where you've got like 10, 12 GPUs, then crypto is great. But the problem is that most people don't do that. Like if you're Joe Blow, average consumer, with just you buy an extra graphics card and you try to mine, you might get, if you're mining, you might get one blockchain out of like 20 that people are trying to mine, which is you know like you might make $50 for like 20 hours worth of work,
Yeah,
which is not a good return on investment. Now, I mean, if you have like, okay, if you have a spare PC rig, and you're like, if you have an extra PC that you can make into a crypto thing and you just passively mines, that's not that bad, but that's still really wasteful,
yeah,
That's so friggin' wasteful. That's so like, that uh, I can't get behind that.
yeah.
I can't get behind like running a computer at high, like I can't get behind that because that's so energy. You know, right now we're in an energy crisis,
Yeah,
and
energy.
for people to do that just so that they can get $50 for 20 hours worth of energy usage, that is so wasteful. The only way I could say that could be okay is if you had a solar power battery. If you had solar power like in your house, like backed up in your house, and you were using the energy that you were getting from the sun, or like you had a turbine or something, maybe. But I mean, that's most people don't have that. Most people are using some form of um, most people are using some form of uh, you know hydroelectric, or
I
some places are nuclear. Some places are using a form of natural gas or some hydrofluorocarbon. I mean, this is not good for the environment. And I would like to have a planet that if I ever have children, that I can show them that the planet has beauty and not be a burnt out husk.
Well, the thing is, it's just I think that's another reason crypto is going down is because of the energy crisis. Because of what's been going on um, overseas and whatnot. So it might have a big contributors to it.
Yeah,
Because
because a lot of the places that were doing all that crypto stuff were foreign countries. Like people in countries where like someone has a computer but not a chance for a really really good job, but they can hook their computer up and do a little crypto mining, or
yeah,
they used to be able to do hook their computer up and do a little crypto mining. The energy crisis kind of put a kibosh on that, didn't it?
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's pretty crazy. I've been seeing think there have been cards that have either reached MSRP or have dropped below MSRP. A lot of a lot of your you know 3060s or 6600 XTs, and they're kind of slightly above MSRP because most people are going to go for those cards. So scalpers or whoever are still going to try to make a buck or two off of those cards. But like the higher end cards, like your 6900s, your 6800s, your 3080s, 3080 Ti's. They're starting to drop to
And I'm
MSRP.
okay with that.
Yeah,
I'm okay with that. Like you shouldn't have to spend, hundreds if not thousands of dollars just to play, um just to get a decent graphics card.
yeah,
And I know some people are going to be like, "But insert reason here why that's not really an issue." I'm like, "Come on, man." Which is why you get more bang for your buck now due to the thing, by getting pre-built.
yeah,
So that's why I tell people, like, look, you might have to get a pre-built PC, but you get a lot more bang for your buck now with a pre-built than you did before.
yeah,
Get a pre-built, and then later on you can, like when the prices go down, you can put a new graphics card in there. And plus, most pre-builts these days, they start off with a decent, um, CPU anyway. CPU GPU. Maybe not great, but decent.
yeah.
I don't know why people are all like that. I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't get it either.
Go, we have to have this. We have to have the newest and the best. I think it's a lot of people with get rich quick schemes, and the thing is that you're like, unless you're buying a lotto ticket, you're not going to get rich quick. It's just not going to happen. So work hard, and you'll
Yeah,
get ahead, or invest, or invent something, or something like that. Don't think you're going to just be able to do some quick get, because really, if it was that effective, more people would be doing it.
yeah.
But I'm just some guy.
Anyway, fifth topic. Will Nintendo surpass the PS2? It's been reported uh, by an organization that follows this stuff. I forgot the name. That the Nintendo Switch has outsold the lifetime sales of the PS4. So that's that's interesting, especially since people were so gung ho about how fast the PS4 was selling when it came out.
Yeah, I don't think that's a fair comparison, considering that the competition to the PS4 was the Wii U and the Xbox One, and the Xbox One was a joke.
Yeah,
It was a joke. It was an embarrassment joke. It was an embarrassing joke. Like the Xbox One was so much of a failure that it was so much of a failure for Microsoft that they basically had to retcon everything that was associated with the Xbox One.
yeah,
Like that's about how much of a failure the Xbox One was. So I don't want to hear, you know, and we all know what happened with the poor Wii U,
yeah.
which was a good console. It just wasn't well marketed.
No,
And Nintendo like gave way too much freedom to third parties. Like I don't know why Nintendo did that, but because third parties have not been good to that company for years.
no. They didn't give them any handouts. They like the handouts from Microsoft and Sony. Although I think after a while, Microsoft and I think even Sony have leaned back on the handouts. Their hands aren't exactly as open as they used to be.
Well, I think Sony's still doing it, but Microsoft is very judicious with their sweetheart deals.
Yeah, yeah, it's a yeah. I don't really. I mean, Sony has done at least a couple things with the first Destiny and I think the Avengers game, but they I haven't really heard too much about these grandiose sweetheart deals like they had with the PS4 or the PS or late PS3.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you have this console, if you have whatever console it is, you know, that adds value to your console. But on the other end, it also keeps stuff from going. Like how people who got the Avengers on the Xbox didn't get Spider Man. I'm like, come on, man. Why would you? That's some petty ass shit right there.
Yeah, thing is that game just didn't turn out very good anyway, and plus the Spider-Man
Yeah,
DLC was not anything to write home about.
but even if the DLC was good, that's just some petty ass shit to hold Spider-Man. Like literally one of the most popular um uh comic book characters, and you're holding him hostage on the PlayStation.
Yeah,
The
that was
PlayStation 5, which it's you can't even find a PS5 right now
yeah, that was pretty dumb. I don't know why they did that.
because of money. And now we know as badly as that game sold, I would bet that that's one of the few profitable things that happened in that game. But it still lost like $200 million. So it's like, business wise, I can see where they're coming from, but that game did not pan out well for anyone involved.
Yeah, I think they were. Everybody was hoping that would be the next big thing. I remember when I first saw that game, it's like, yeah, I don't think this is gonna do very well.
I mean, from the people that I know that have played it, they said that the single player is pretty good, but
Multiplayer is terrible.
the multiplayer basically gets so heavy-handed with the microtransactions that you can't even enjoy the game. It's
Yeah,
nerfed to make you spend money. And why would someone want to play a game that's basically been handicapped just to make you spend money to enjoy the game?
yeah,
It's like, oh, you want to enjoy the rest of your game that you spent $60 on? Guess what? You got to spend even more money. It's like, come on, man. Don't do this. But I will give Square Enix credit. At least they didn't throw IDOS under the bus
yeah,
like they could have, and like I've seen companies do in the past.
yeah, yeah. They love to do that. That's for sure. But in any case, is there any free topic you'd like to bring up before we close out the show?
Um, just one. Uh, it'll be about. It's just going to be a quick little thing about the Switch sales. I don't think it's fair to compare the Switch's sales to a console. I think you should compare the Switch's sales to Nintendo's other handhelds.
Um, yeah, I can
So
see
you
that.
should you should compare the sales of it to their Game Boy, to the Game Boy, the DS, the 3DS. It surpassed the 3DS. It's like I think the DS had like 155, 160 around there. So if it surpasses the sales of that system, then I'll be like, okay, then you know that's impressive. But it's still more of a handheld than a home console, in my mind. In my mind, like I'm pretty sure most people who have a Switch play it as a handheld versus thinking of it as a home console.
Yeah, yeah, I can definitely see that.
So I'm not like, oh my god, this is amazing. I'm like, okay. Like, what Nintendo handheld hasn't sold gangbusters?
Yeah, Nintendo handhelds have been pretty. I can't think of a. I mean, obviously the Virtual Boy. I don't know if that's
Yeah,
considered
but
a
that wasn't a
handheld.
handheld.
Yeah, that wasn't really a handheld. Yeah, there hasn't been a. They haven't had a single like flop when it comes to their handhelds.
So I've never seen a Nintendo handheld that did not sell well.
Yeah,
I'm not saying it can't happen. I'm just saying I've never seen one. I don't know of a Nintendo handheld not selling well.
yeah,
Like I said, I'm not saying it can't happen. I'm just saying I've never heard of it. You know, the Game Boy sold well. The GBA sold well. Like Nintendo doesn't fail with handhelds,
nope.
and the Switch is basically a handheld. Like I know it has console capabilities, but I guarantee that most people who own a Switch are using it as a handheld. They are
Yeah,
not using it as a console. Like if you go and look up, okay, what do you use your Switch for? I guarantee most people are using it like a home console versus a handheld.
yeah. You can definitely see that.
And I know some people are going to get mad when they hear that, but Nintendo measures this stuff. That's why they sold. If people weren't using the Nintendo as a dedicated handheld, why do you think the Switch Lite came out? Because that was a market that was using it already like that, and Nintendo said, well, why should we do that when we can lower the manufacturing cost and still make a lot of money?
Yeah,
So that's why I'm like, yeah, I don't think it's fair to compare the Switch to a console. Like comparing it to the PS2 or the PS4 is not a fair. Um, it's not a fair comparison. And I know some people are going to be like, but insert reason here why I'm wrong. But I mean, come on, let's use some common sense here. Y'all know that's not a good comparison. Y'all
yeah.
know good and hell well that's not a good comparison.
But my quick free topic is apparently I think it might have been the old developers or somebody got a hold of the source code for Doom or not Duke Nukem Forever, the
Yep.
the demo that came out back in 2000, either 2000 2001. It was an E3 demo. Came out a little around 20 years ago, and yeah, it posted online. Obviously, it's not a finished. It's obviously not a finished product, but it's going to be interesting to see since they also posted the source code what sort of modifications could come out of it. So
Yeah. I'll be honest with you. Looking at it, like I think that had they held that game back, you could put that because think about all the retro first person shooters that have had a new life these days because people want to go back to that retro style. If they had released that game, what hurt Duke Nukem Forever was that there was feature creep and that game was in development for so long that they kept on adding new stuff all the time, and eventually it got to be too much. But
yeah,
could you imagine how friggin' amazing that game could have been if they had just focused on it being a retro shooter
yeah,
instead of trying to, we got to add this new stuff because it's hot right now.
yeah, yeah. That was the
But
problem.
the closest we're gonna get now is the Duke Nukem Forever 2021. And I bet, ironically, if this game is ever released and it gets on Metacritic, if it has a higher score than Duke Nukem Forever,
Yeah,
the game that came out in 2010.
yeah.
That'll be hilarious. I'll be like, and that in that ironic, in that irony for your ass that the old version is better than the new shit that came out.
Yeah, yeah, um, yeah. So I mean, it's kind of cool that they're just like, you know what? Here's the source code, guys. Just go crazy. It's like, oh well, you don't usually see a lot of that. A lot of that happen. Usually, when games get shelved or ideas get shelved, they're locked. They're lost. They're lost forever.
Yep, they're
Like,
gone forever, but not this time.
oh. The final thoughts? Anything you'd like to pimp out before we end the show?
Let's see. Oh, tomorrow on BS Busters midweek casts, we'll be doing just a retro talk for the 20th anniversary of Spider-Man, Sam Raimi Spider-Man. God, I feel old. So that's going to be fun. We'll just be talking about, hey, remember Sam Raimi Spider-Man? Remember how great that movie was? Yeah. We'll do a I'll give my spoiler review for Doctor Strange because apparently viewers asked for it. So that'll be fun. That's it. That's it. And we might talk some video game news, but it's not going to be a lot of video games.
And this has been another episode of Project Council, episode 31. Episode 31, we are still locked in. And have a good week, have a good weekend, have a good life. See you guys next week.